Welcome to Coach Connect Hub, and this is Training Tuesday. I'm Sam Rafis, and today I'm joined by Kerri Karel, and Kerri is a Strengths and Leadership Coach. Today, Kerri's presenting Embracing Your Strengths, and Kerri, take it away, my friend.
Thank you so much, Sam. I'm going to share my screen here as we get started. So, as Sam said, I am a strengths and leadership coach, and I'm going to explain sort of what that looks like as we go through this. I'm going to start with a couple of things for us to think about as we talk about strengths. So here's my question for you. How much time do you spend trying to overcome the areas in which you're weak? How much time do you spend dreading to do things that you don't want to do for your business, but you have to do? We all have things we don't like to do, and we all have areas in which we're a little bit weaker than we are in other areas. So I'm going to say that we have some flawed assumptions out there in the world. Most organizations believe two things. They believe that anyone can learn to be competent at almost anything. You know, we've all heard you can do anything you want to do if you just try hard enough. Each person's greatest room for growth is in the areas of their greatest weakness. That's something that most organizations believe, and you can see that in multiple ways in how they train people and so on. So how can you spot those flawed assumptions? To gauge whether an organization or you or your coaching clients believe these assumptions, consider the following. Do they spend more money on training rather than finding the right person for the job on the outset? Are they focused more, or are you focused more on performance through legislating your work style? We're going to do it this way. The organization says we have to do it this way, and so on. Do we spend money on plugging holes for skill gaps to make up for those areas of weakness? And I've seen this when I was in corporate America. Promotion and prestige is given to those who have learned the most or have the well-rounded experience. I actually used to have well-rounded experience on my resume. So many of us have suffered from imposter syndrome, right? They're going to find out I don't know what I'm doing. They're going to find out I don't know what I'm talking about. I hear from new entrepreneurs all the time, and maybe I should rethink this whole entrepreneur thing. Maybe this isn't for me. What have I done? You know, once they get into it. So there's a tool that I used called Clifton Strengths, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about the tool, and then we're going to talk about what it looks like to lean into your strengths. So the history of Clifton Strengths, it was created by a man named Don Clifton, which is where the name comes from. And he asked the question, what would happen if we studied what was right with people instead of what is wrong with people? Instead of focusing on here's where you're weak, we've all had those employee reviews of here's what you're good at, here's your weak points, we got to improve your weak points, etc. So he invented the Clifton Strengths Assessment. It used to be called the Clifton Strengths Finder, but it's been completed by over 31 million people. When he created it, it's aligned with the Gallup organization. So if you've ever heard of, a Gallup poll, Gallup polls are out there. That's where the Clifton Strengths comes from. And Gallup, over the course of 30 years, interviewed over 2 million people to find out what their strengths are. And they came up with this assessment that gives 34 themes that we all have, and the assessment goes through those. But what they've really done is they've broken that weakness mold. Instead of focusing on how can we overcome our weakness, instead, how can we amplify our strengths and leverage those to manage our weaknesses, but leverage those to move our business or our coaching practice or our coaching clients further and farther than they can go if they're just focused on what they don't do well. Each person, we all have unique talents. We all have gifts and talents that we're given. Everyone's is different, and we all have unique ones. And truly our area for the most growth is in the areas of our strength, not our weaknesses. Because if we lean into and really leverage what we already naturally do well, how much farther is that going to take us than trying to overcome the areas where we don't do well? So here's some definitions for us, so we're all talking on the same page. A weakness is an inadequate or defective quality. A talent is something that we do naturally. It's naturally reoccurring patterns of thoughts, feelings, behaviors. Knowledge, it's facts and lessons learned, right? We gain knowledge by learning more. And skills, those are steps of an activity. So you take the steps to perform an activity, and that is a skill. So your strength is your talents, your knowledge, and your skills combined. That's what makes a strength. So a talent, a natural talent, is sort of unrefined. And once you discover that you've got this natural talent, things that you gravitate towards, and usually for me, it's things I like to do, right? I like to do the things that I'm good at. And when you combine that with the knowledge and the skills and the practice, which is where skills come in, that's what makes a strength. So amplifying and leveraging your strengths can really, really help you. And it can help you in identifying the strengths of your clients to take them further and farther as well. So amplifying and leveraging your strengths, you can do a few things. You can learn to distinguish between your natural talents and the things you can learn. There are always things that we can learn. I can learn how to do basic bookkeeping practices. I hate bookkeeping practices, but I can learn it. It doesn't mean I'm going to be great at it or even good at it, but I can learn what I need to learn to manage my business. So, but what I can do, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a different slide, but what I can do is leverage my strength. My top strength is achiever. That's one of the themes. And so achievers like lists. I like to-do lists. I like to check things off the to-do list when they're done. So I can use that. And one of my other top strengths is learning. So I can use those two things to work through what I need to work through to get my bookkeeping done for my business, as an example. You identify what your dominant talents are. And again, those are natural, innate within us. And then when we develop those, they become a strength. It's also good to come up with a common language to describe your talents. And that's what Clifton has done, which is why I appreciate that tool so much and use it. I've been using the tool for, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years now for myself, for leadership development programs that I'm a part of, and in coaching clients as well. You could work with a coach or a peer to create strategies to leverage your strengths. This can be done when you have to do things you're not good at, like I was just talking about accounting. Bookkeeping is not my favorite thing. People often say, well, you have an MBA, you must love numbers. No, I don't. Doesn't mean I didn't work for my MBA, because I did, but numbers are not my thing. So managing your weaknesses, we all have things we have to do, especially as solopreneurs, as small business owners. Our clients are the same way, right? That are small business owners. We all have things that we have to do. We can't outsource everything we would like to outsource just because we don't like to do it. But we can manage our weaknesses as opposed to trying to put too much focus and emphasis on those weaknesses. So we have a few options in managing our weaknesses. We can outsource whenever we can to others who have strengths we lack. One of my leadership mentors has always told me, and it has always stuck with me, is that good leaders surround themselves with people who have gifts and talents that they lack, because they can fill in those gaps and move the team farther and faster than if they try to do it all themselves. We can also spend hours trying to overcome our weaknesses, which that sounds awful to me. We can leverage our strengths and still get things done. And that's what I'm proposing. So here's just a little bit about my story. Years ago, I really felt like an imposter. I was terrified that I was going to find out that people were going to find out Kerri does not know what she's talking about. She does not know what she's doing. And I didn't have a lot of confidence in the gifts, talents, skills that I had. So around 2005, I made a decision that, and this is for me, it was a faith-based decision, but I made the decision, all right, so God has given me some gifts and talents, and he expects me to use them. And he doesn't expect me to use them just for my good. He expects me to use them for the good of others, which is where my servant heart comes in, my servant mentalities. But when I truly acknowledged and said, okay, God did give me these gifts and talents. When I truly did that, my strength amplified and my business doubled, my confidence exploded, my ministry impact exploded. It was an amazing time in my life. And it doesn't mean that self-doubt doesn't creep in every once in a while, but for me, it was a complete mind shift. And learning what my strengths were was just a way that supported that decision when I made it. So I already have talked a lot about this already, but bookkeeping is not my thing. I'd rather get a root canal. I cannot outsource it at the moment. So I could spend countless hours trying to figure it out on my own, or I could leverage my achiever strength, like I talked about. I could leverage my learning strength, and I could, jump on YouTube, which has a video for just about everything, and learn the basics of what I need to know to at least maintain the books for my business until I pass it off to my accountant. So this is managing my weakness as opposed to trying to overcome it. When I try to overcome something, I'm spending a disproportionate amount of time trying to figure it out or learn it, instead of focusing on my areas of strength and how those can move my business farther and faster. So I believe amplification is what happens when you combine your strengths with your mission. I mentioned that one of the things I had to acknowledge was that I wasn't given these gifts and talents just to use for my good. I really believe it's a heart burden of mine that I'm supposed to use these gifts and talents to benefit others, to help other people. And that's my mission, which is my passion. And my passion is to help new leaders and new small business owners discover their strengths and figure out how to lean into those, to leverage those to accomplish their mission in business, in leadership, or in life. Because we all have things that we care about. That's our passion. And when you combine your passion with your strengths, something magical happens. So here's a little tool to rate yourself. So rate yourself on these things. I spend a significant amount of time or money trying to overcome my weaknesses. Keep these numbers in your head. I know it's numbers, and I said I don't like numbers. It's quick and painless. So number 2 is I spend even more time plugging the holes in areas where my team is weak. I pride myself on being a jack of all trades. I prided myself on that for a very long time, and it really didn't help me. I get stuck in analysis paralysis when I have to do something I'm not good at, or I dislike, or I'm uncomfortable with, or I don't feel qualified enough to handle it. I talk to new business owners all the time, and many of them get stuck in analysis paralysis. They're afraid to pull the trigger on just about anything. So if you have your score, 30 to 40, run to your nearest strengths coach. Run, don't walk, run. If you scored about a 21 to 29, you likely have a good idea of what your natural talents are. Maybe they're just not refined yet. And if you scored a lower score of 4 through 20, you're probably leveraging your strengths for your business. And I say, well done. Good for you. That's excellent. So here's my challenge. Most of us in this room are coaches. So here's my challenge if you're a coach, is what if your client embraced his or her strengths and actually leveraged them in their business? What if your client stopped wasting time and energy trying to overcome the areas that they're not naturally talented in? What if your client understood not only their strengths, but the strength of their team or their family members or whoever? I talked to, I'm in the middle of a strengths coaching certification course right now. And one of my fellow students in there said that his entire family, his wife, all of his siblings, and all of his children, I think he had like 5, have all taken the Strengths Finder assessment, and it has increased communication within their own family significantly because they have learned what each other's strengths are, and I just thought that was a great story. So also, what would happen if your client multiplied their impact by combining their strengths with their mission? You know, as coaches, all of our clients got into business because they were good at X, or they were passionate about X, whatever X is. But sometimes they don't know how to take that to the next level. And as at least as business coaches, that's one of the things that we do, right? I would say that's one of the things that life coaches do as well, is they help someone uncover ways that they can reach the goals in their life that they have. So if you're a coach and you have some clients that you think would benefit from this, I would say just send them to Gallup and have them do the assessment. Or, you know, if it would make sense, I would love to participate. But I do want to spend most of our time in our session today just talking about this and answering questions. So with that, I'm going to say that is the end of my slideshow. It wasn't very long. I just wanted to sort of set the stage for the conversation that we're going to have now. So with that, Sam, I'm going to stop sharing. And there we go.
Thank you so much, Kerri. I can't wait to get to the Q&A, everyone.